and I'm a singer.
Hi, my name is Peyton and I'm a dancer.
And today, what are we doing today?
Today, we are back with a very exciting reaction, this time to a debut, and we will be reacting to Kwanbi in her solo debut.
Yes, so for those of you who may not know, Kwanbi is from Woollim Entertainment, and she is a former member of IZ*ONE, but now she's making her official solo debut with her new song called Door. And obviously, in advance, we have watched the teasers leading up to this, and quick shout out, we just want to once again thank Woollim Entertainment for contacting us about this reaction. That being said, let's go! What an intro. I was wondering what those bunny ears were for.
I mean, the setting's kind of Alice.
Yeah, you're right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just saw her in the tiny room. Oh, beat change, yeah.
Oh, that was cool. She's also a dancer, so the more music-focused chorus makes a lot of sense. Like the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely Alice.
There's no way it can't be.
Yeah.
No, at this point. I was gonna say, even from the teasers, I really like the instrumental because it's jazzier, kind of big band-esque. Which makes sense because it's she's more mature.
Yeah.
Whoa! That's so embarrassing.
I was gonna say it kind of reminds me of Flapper swing dancing, and then she's in all of these outfits that are very
so super glittery. Oh.
It makes you want to dance, like the song. Clearly,
Yeah.
we're both.
Really? I had no idea. This part, yeah.
Oh my god, is there partner dancing? I really hope there's partner dancing.
I'm glad we can communicate without words.
Yep. It's we did not say anything.
It's
oh my god, it's so Flapper. Sorry, what?
no, yeah, I was gonna say it's the old time Broadway, classic Broadway, those numbers.
Ah. I really enjoyed this dance, the choreography, because it is 100% classical jazz. This is such classical choreography, which isn't something that you see as often in K-pop. You usually see more urban, hip-hop style, and then they might mix it with jazz elements or with a different style of dance elements, but this is jazz, from start to finish. And you mentioned Old Broadway, and yeah, it sort of has that big ending number sort of feel, especially the way it's made and the way all of the formations are telling the story. They move around the stage as she moves, which is following her story. So I thought that was really interesting. In terms of classical jazz, though, if I had to put an era on it, because there are different eras, we also said this during the reaction, very flapper era, very swing era, like 100%. Especially the chorus. There's just some very iconic moves and body positioning that's in this that reminds me of that era. Like, I guess one of the main foot movements in the chorus when she's in second position and she's like moving hip by hip and sort of like swinging back and forth, or every step crossover where you sort of like fall forward and then roll back.
Oh.
She does that so many times, and I love that move. I think it's such a fun like moment in dances. It's sort of like a release moment. It makes it a little bit more playful, and this performance is very playful. Like the facials that she uses, the dance itself, like it's very playful. But I was also thinking, because it's that era, it was making me think of like a speakeasy as well, especially the verse choreography and like the very beginning of the chorus before the singing part of the chorus, because the moves slow down a little bit, they get a little bit more sensual. And so I was thinking about like the entertainer at a speakeasy and the sort of style they would do. It's a little bit more body rolls, a little like more sensual, and just some of the body positioning there is very reminiscent of that as well. Like there's a lot of very exaggerated leanings. That's when they do the lift, and that lift also, I was like, this is a speakeasy like performance lift, because of how they are just, I don't want to say throwing her around like a rag doll, because that has like a weird connotation, but she's letting her body be manipulated, and it's these really exaggerated leans, and it makes it, I keep using the word sensual, but that's what it is. Like when you have something that exaggerated, it makes it more sensual, and those are the slower moments before it goes back into that like swing dance speakeasy like party scene. Also, speaking of that lift and then just partnering in general, first of all, kudos to her, because I said for that lift they're kind of like throwing her around like a rag doll, but in reality that lift is a lot harder for her to do than it is for the guys lifting her to do. They're really just like moving her around, but she has to be very in control of all of her muscles, all parts of her body, and make it look like it's so easy. But also, there was partnering briefly. I said in that moment, I was like, ooh, is there partnering? I really hope there's partnering. The reason I actually liked the moment so much, though, was because it sort of had a flip in the dance, where earlier, every time there was a lift, it was a guy coming up and grabbing her and moving her. But for that moment in the bridge, she takes control and she's moving them around. And so it's sort of like she takes control of this moment, and I enjoyed that switch. But then finally, connecting the concept and the dance together, anything remotely Alice in Wonderland related, I'm like all here for. But also with the speakeasy vibes and just with the meaning of the song about sort of like being in your own world and like being yourself in your own world, I thought it was especially appropriate to have Alice, because it's sort of like a speakeasy where you go through your hidden door and you're like in your own world. And I was like, oh, I love this. So very entertaining. Anna's turn.
Hello, so it's my turn for comments, and the way that you were like all over this more like swing jazz dance, I was so into the song because I really like jazz music.
Yeah.
And also, y'all know that we talk about Monotree a lot on this channel, and they worked on this song too. They actually worked on a couple of songs on her album. This song has so many of those like little details that I'm into, like slight changes throughout the music, but it makes a big difference in like how you receive it, how you feel it. Also, just the fact that this is more based on like instruments and MIDIs than synth sounds, which by the way is so interesting because this is a Woollim artist.
Yeah.
Granted, their soloists don't really have that like electronic sound. It's more the like groups that have the electronic like synth sound. But yes, you said like swing dancing, and also when I wrote down my notes, I was like, oh, swing music! Because the whole time I was just like, oh, it's so jazzy, it's like big band, but I couldn't think of the word swing. And big band is like what people usually associate with jazz music, where it has like the typical jazz instruments that people think of, like all the horns and brass, and like the piano will be there, the bass will be there, like that's usually what people think of. I'm gonna get my kind of like thing out of the way before I move on. My only like tiny concern with this is that like there are some moments where her voice, if not for the fact that it's been placed like higher in mixing, louder in mixing, sounds a little bit like overpowered by the instrumental, just because her singing voice is so like clear and sweet, like that kind of style. The instrumental is like big band music, so it's like there's so many different lines happening and it's like loud sort of in your face. Moving on and talking about like things in order of the song. So the song starts with like the drumsticks, and it's not like a, you know how in like rock band music it would usually be like 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's like kind of a sort of lead in to the song still, like in that same way, and then the instrumental instrumental starts, and it's like the same as what you're going to hear in the future, but it has the muted effect on it. Like the first chorus especially, you hear all the different string plucking, and then like the occasional bass line will come in, and then that changes in the second verse, because in the second verse they still have those elements, but the bass line is more present, and also they have like a synth sound, just like sustained pitches filling up the space, so it feels fuller. So it's like slight things like that are still showing growth in the song as it goes on. It's telling the story. The beginning of the chorus is more pulled back because like to show contrast and like that sort of effect. You still hear horns in the beginning, albeit it's like more muted. Once it opens up to her singing too, other synth layers come in, you hear the extra perk. Also you start hearing like jazzy piano lines as well, and then there's an outro of the chorus, like a more instrumental part again before the verse starts. The horns are like full force then, like they aren't muted. That being said, like although the song does focus on the instruments a lot, there is still synth usage, like I mentioned in the second verse. Also particularly in the pre-chorus you hear that synth usage more. Last thing that I need to talk about is the bridge. It has like the walking bass line that people think of. Well, it's on 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually when you think of a walking bass line, it's faster than that, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and instead. One thing about the swing music is like it's so many different rhythms for each line. So you have that's very straightforward, and then you also have that thing that I think I was dancing to when it happened. It was like da 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 da, and then they also have other like triplet lines as well. I love this style of music. Yeah. That's all I have to say. Oh, but it is my turn to TLDR. So TLDR for this reaction video is, first of all, congratulations to Kwon Eun-bi on her solo debut. And honestly, this is a really great solo debut release. Yeah. The song and dance are literally like perfectly connected to each other, showing a dance style that you don't get to see in K-pop that often, and a music style you don't get to hear like a full entire song of that often, really. And we're very excited to see what she will show us in the future as a soloist.
So that being said, if you are also excited about Kwon Eun-bi's solo debut and are excited to see what she's going to do in the future and you want to talk about it more, come follow us on our socials, which are linked in the cards, and we're happy to talk there. And as always, if you enjoyed this reaction video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and bye!